Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Yes You Can project. I don't know why I said I've got a pen in my hand, that was why. I'm delighted to be joined by the gorgeous Emma. Hi, Emma.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for coming on. It's taken us a good few weeks to get this organised, hasn't it? Like, I've cancelled, but we're here.
We are here. We are absolutely here.
So when I was doing my research, we actually found out that we had connected 2 years ago, and we didn't even know. I mean, that's maybe a story for another day. But right now, I want to see if I get this description of you right. Okay, so you're a self-care and motherhood coach and educator. You're also, aside from being a certified coach, you're also a practical magic coach, an NLP master practitioner, and an MBit certified coach.
I am. It's a lot of
That is a
things,
lot.
isn't it?
Yeah. So can you break that down for me and tell me like what each kind of section entails for anybody who doesn't know,
Mhm.
including me?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it can just sound like a lot of jargon, can't it? And it can make that quite inaccessible to understand what stuff is. So we'll start with practical magic first. So
Okay.
practical magic is a beautiful. It comes from a beautiful card deck of activation cards, and they're not tarot cards, but that's probably the easiest thing for people to understand. That's kind of like the shape, the size,
Yeah.
kind of, how they kind of look and what they kind of do. So they all have these gorgeous illustrations on them, and then they have a word that describes that illustration underneath.
Okay.
And essentially, what they are a beautiful way to really dig deep into your intuition, and you can use them as a creative prompt to journal on, or I often
Right.
use them in coaching sessions with clients. If someone's feeling really stuck or is just need a bit of clarity on something, I'm not really sure what it is, but I need some kind of answers. And
Yeah.
what we know is that most people have the answers
Yeah.
inside, and we just got to dig through all those layers sometimes to get them.
Mhm.
So the cards can be a really beautiful way to do that. You can also use them for so many other things. Like you can use them to write a story, which is
Okay.
when you go through that process. And I don't mean like well, yeah, it could be any story actually, really, but it's always written from in the third person. So we're talking about get this right because I'm quite terrible at English. You write it like you're talking about somebody else, like so she.
Okay.
That's third
Yeah.
person, isn't it? Yeah. Um, and then when you read it back in first person. So I, me,
Okay.
and it can be so powerful.
Yeah.
And I've done a few workshops with that and also with individual clients as well. But the emotion that it can really bring up, because actually, what people often realize is that they've written this story with using three cards, one for the beginning, one for the middle, one for the end.
Yeah.
And actually, the story they've written is about themselves. Um,
Oh my
so
goodness.
it's good. It's a real,
It's powerful though,
yeah,
isn't it?
really powerful. And I think because it's something external as well, it really invites us to be like really curious about it rather than it being directly like internally led. So
Yeah.
it's really, really beautiful. So that's practical magic. NLP, people might have heard of NLP in terms of
Mhm.
its neuro linguistic programming. And essentially, what NLP is a beautiful set of tools and techniques which can be absolutely life changing from, really even just, I use it with my daughter quite a lot in a
Oh,
really simple form.
yeah.
So she was having a nightmare the other week. I think it was something to do with spiders, if I remember rightly.
Mhm.
And we used the submodality process from NLP.
Okay.
And so that's really looking at how we see, what we might be hearing, how something might, how it might even taste, how it
Okay.
feels, what temperature it is. And there's more
Mhm.
to that, but that's just kind of a brief overview. And so
Is
she
it
was,
kind of intertwined with mindfulness?
it,
Because
it,
it
it
sounds
can
similar
be,
in a way.
yeah. So there's NLP has a huge number of different processes for loads of different things. So
Yeah.
it might be that you're going back and you want to look at like a past event and you want to get
Okay.
learning from that to understand how you could use that. It might be that if you're getting really overwhelmed about something, there's processes you can use to support that. So it's completely like vast and wide, but
Yeah.
essentially it's about changing your behavior, so working out why you do something in the way that you do it and how you do that,
Okay.
and then changing it. So it's not really about the story, it's about the doing of that.
Yeah.
So if we go back to what I was talking about the spiders, so that she was really freaking out about these spiders. This can be
Oh.
used for other things as well, not just
Mhm.
your kid having a nightmare. So she was freaking out about these spiders. And I was like, well, how about, maybe you make them a different color? So I think she made them like bright pink or something. So all these suddenly scary spiders are now bright pink.
Yeah.
Like, can
They've
we?
got Barbie vibes now.
Yeah,
It makes it
definitely got
easier,
Barbie
doesn't
vibes. Yeah. It's like, can you make them like smaller so they're really tiny,
it?
so they're not big anymore? She's like, yeah. So she did that. And then I was like, can we like maybe sprinkle some glitter on them? So often
Oh,
when we're doing this with adults, like you're not giving them potentially like the specific suggestions, but obviously
yeah.
with a child it can be quite useful. So at this point she's got these really small, bright pink glittery spiders.
Oh,
That's what she's picturing rather than these like big black scary spiders. And she was like, Mummy, they're still not right. I was like, well, can you maybe give them like a squeaky voice or something that sounds funny? So she gives
okay.
them this like squeaky voice. And she's like, oh my God, they're not scary anymore.
Yeah.
And that, then I've got a child who actually will go to sleep.
Bless.
But actually, they're tools and techniques that we can teach in a really simple and easy way. There are more
Mhm.
complicated techniques, and we think about timeline work, where actually we're going back and learning and maybe seeing things from a different perspective on our timeline. So things that maybe happened when we were a child. There's more in-depth work that can be done with things like that, and
Mhm.
phobias, and how we generally might just respond to a situation.
Yeah.
So it's really, really beautiful. It can be used dead simply, like I've just described, but there are also more in-depth processes too. So I guess that kind of sums up NLP.
Yeah.
And then MBit, I guess, kind of fits somewhere in the middle, really.
Okay.
So MBit is based on a lot of scientific research and
Right.
understanding, although I guess is also considered quite woo-woo in terms and practical magic as well, I guess. Um, so how it's how we don't the understanding basically that we don't just have one brain, so we have
Oh,
multiple intelligences. So our head
okay.
brain, our heart brain, and our gut brain, and
Yeah.
each have a different function. So our head is very logical. Our
Yeah.
heart, when we think about someone who is really heart led, they are often someone who is really aligned and really being themselves and is in that kind of space. And our gut
Okay.
is kind of where we take action or don't take action. So there might be
Yeah.
something that's stopping us, and
It's like
essentially,
when people say you get that gut feeling about
yeah, about
something
something.
or
Yeah,
someone, that's where
yeah.
that comes from.
So there's a lot of that understanding is based on how we used to understand how we worked, going back like years, hundreds and thousands of years, how we used to
Okay.
work and how we were in touch with maybe more of our what we might refer to as our intuition, how we
Mhm.
inside we weren't just I guess sticks on heads.
Yeah.
And so MBIT really brings that into the focus with a lot of scientific research, like the heart's electromagnetic field, what's happening in our
Oh.
gut. And actually, our gut is really intelligent.
Mhm.
And often we just think that it's just our head, and that's the only part that, we're guessing
Yeah.
those, actually, when we really dig deep, whether it's a thought, it's a sensation, it's a temperature, whatever it might be, there's other stuff happening in our body.
Okay. I
Um,
saw a study actually. Yeah, I think it was just today that came out. Excuse me. I think it was in Stylist magazine or Grazia, and they had said that they had linked your gut health to depression.
mm,
That's what scientists had found, and it was manifesting itself in different ways in our body, and not just in the traditional psychological
mm,
effects that we think, like the actual physical effects that can be absolutely massive.
mm. And I think that's where we can really start to, then with the help of either a GP or a coach or a therapist,
Yeah.
but whatever might be most suitable, or maybe all three, depending on, what is going on for us, actually we can start to make real changes.
Yeah.
And when I started, the first kind of coaching qualification I did was and it wasn't a coaching qualification, it was kind of I guess the introduction to where I was going to
Yeah.
end up going and where I am now,
Mhm.
because I did my practical magic, but I did just before that an NLP diploma, and that was 4 days. And that was the most transformational like space that I've been in. You know,
Yeah.
before I came to that space, I think we were just coming out of COVID at that time, and I was really anxious. You know, I'd spent, I think, maybe 3, maybe 4 months previous, like basically I wasn't leaving the house at all. I was working a lot from home, and we were on that kind of, you know, phased into work, out of work, and teaching online. And, you know, because within all of that was still full-time teaching.
Yeah.
And I came out of those 4 days and I felt like a completely different person.
Oh my
Like,
gosh, that's
and
so
it's
nice.
and it's such that, you know, I think unless you're in that space, it's very difficult to kind of describe other than like completely life changing.
Wow.
And I remember we had an Ofsted inspection. Can't have been long after I'd done my NLP diploma, and I was one of the people who was chosen to go and speak to an Ofsted inspector, which I was terrified about.
Oh.
However, you know, because you feel very vulnerable, don't you? Very on show in terms of, you know, are you going to answer something correctly, etc., etc. I mean, I guess the same as if you were going into a big meeting or, you know, you were doing a talk, you
Yeah.
know, it's all those same sorts of things, isn't it? You can feel quite vulnerable and quite exposed. And before I went into that meeting, I remember I was stood in my office and I was like, right, okay, these are the tools and techniques that I've got. This is what I can do. And that was from the NLP, it was from the practical magic. And I went into that meeting, I was like, I've aced this. Like, I feel
Oh,
confident and I feel
yeah.
able to actually not seize up and not say what I need to say. Like, it felt, you know, amazing. And I came out of that and I was like, yes, I've done it. Like, that
Oh.
was amazing.
It's like you got your bag out, your invisible bag of the stuff that you'd learn, almost like an armor.
Absolutely. And that's not to say, and for anybody listening, think that just because you have all those tools and techniques, that you remember to use them all the time, because you definitely
Yeah.
don't. There's been many a time where I've been like, actually, I really could have done with pulling that tool out, like at that
Yeah.
point. But also, that comes with, you know, actually knowing that, yes, I have all these tools and techniques. Some of the time I remember, and sometimes I don't. But that awareness of actually, next time I know that I can use that to help me.
Yeah.
And that's what all three of those things and coaching in general, you know, it's all about building that self-awareness and then knowing that we can make better choices if we choose to and if that's right for us at that time.
Definitely.
And how like amazing is that, just as a concept, like
Yeah.
that I can, you know, be more curious about how that feels for me, why I felt that way at that time about that. Can I choose to, you know, feel a different way about that next time? Yeah. And I
Yeah.
might need some more support with that. That's not necessarily something that all of us can do on our own. You know, we might need to work with a coach, you know, depending on what it is.
Yeah. I think
Sorry.
self-awareness is probably the biggest tool that we can possess.
Mm-hmm.
I think something really switches, doesn't it, when you start to gain that self-awareness, because it's almost like you're intuitively, you know how to help yourself
Mm-hmm.
in those situations. And I think that's really, really
Mm-hmm.
powerful.
Yeah. And then how we can also help others to then,
Definitely.
I talk a lot about it from a parenting perspective, but, you know, my daughter, we were discussing, she gets quite angry, she feels quite angry, and I was like, so how does
Yeah.
that feel and where does that feel and what can we do, you know, what can you do next time you feel like that so that you don't act or respond in that way, like what can you do next time? What a
Amazing.
gift that is that we can give to our children,
Yeah.
that actually, you know, we can support them to
Mhm.
recognize their emotion, because how many adults really struggle to recognize what that emotion is,
Definitely.
and then be able to regulate or know that if I can't help myself in that moment, I know
Mhm.
that I can do this, or I can go to that teacher, or I can go to my mom or my
Yeah.
dad or whoever, and they are going to help me to not feel like this right now.
And being able to explain it in a clear and concise way is really important as well, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to children, because they
Mm-hmm.
can struggle. Not only are they struggling with the emotion at the time, they're struggling to relay that to
Mm-hmm.
somebody else because they don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
verbalize it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Such a gift.
It's so interesting. I'm loving this. Brilliant. So, was there any particular thing that kind of either happened to you or that brought you to decide, okay, this is the path that I want to go down?
I think there were a number of things. So as I mentioned before, you know, I've been a teacher. I've been a teacher since I finished my degree. So this is my 11th year now of teaching.
Wow.
And so I know it feels like a really
Congratulations.
thank you. I actually got my first thank you card from a student this week in a really long time to say thank you for, you know, the
Oh,
support and the help. And I was like,
yeah.
that's, you know,
Mhm.
it's, I guess you don't, you know, when you're in that environment, you don't see it as someone needing to say thank you. That's your job. That's what you do. You help, you support those students.
Yeah.
So that was really, really lovely. And that's a tangent of, you know, where we're going with this, I guess.
And it spurs you on, though, I bet, as well.
Yeah,
Because I would
absolutely.
imagine how difficult, and everybody knows how difficult teaching is,
Yeah.
especially because there's so many things to think about, so many responsibilities. It, it must be difficult not to take your work home, for one,
Mm.
and then for secondly, to keep that drive, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
to keep going,
Yeah.
because there's lots of issues, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think, you know, with that kind of profession, I think unless you're in it, can be really difficult to understand actually the
Yeah.
complexities. And, you know, I work in a really deprived area, so actually the complexities of that specific area,
Mhm.
you know, are very different to someone teaching in a different area or someone working in a
Yeah.
different, you know, and it is a difficult job. However, that being said, it is so rewarding.
Oh.
You know, to see those young people who, you know, are going to go off to uni in September, and, you know, or are going, you know, staying with where I work, and they're going on to do a degree there. And, you know, when they started, they wouldn't talk to
Mhm.
anybody. And, you know, the
Oh.
achievement and the journey that they've been on is absolutely incredible.
It's like being a proud mum over and over
Yeah.
again,
So
isn't
like
it?
500 students, and you're like, it's amazing. Um,
Oh,
so yeah. Um, so I've been doing that for 11 years this year. And so I started my business. So the business was under a previous name called Isabella and Us, and I started that when my daughter was 4 weeks old. You know, I
crazy.
know, absolutely crazy. But I needed that thing for me. You know,
Yes.
obviously I've been really driven in my career, and because my background is a creative background, so my degree is in photography, I'd always had that, you know, need for a creative outlet, you know, even
Yeah.
before. I remember painting when I was little at my granddad's, and, you know, we'd spend hours painting. And, you know, I just enjoyed being creative.
Yeah.
And that was my outlet for, you know, I guess that space that I needed. And
Mhm.
this, you know, that kind of, I guess, maintenance of my mental health had always been that creative outlet.
Yes.
And so when Isabella arrived, and it was just before Christmas, and it was just a complete kind of shock to the system. You know,
Yeah.
I'd really struggled during pregnancy. I'd had a really rough time being really poorly. And then all of a sudden, I've got this child who doesn't want to sleep. We're struggling to feed, and I'm exhausted. I don't know what the hell's happened to me. I don't know who I
Mhm.
am anymore.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of those feelings that a lot of us, you know, as new moms kind of feel.
Yeah.
But I wasn't finding that on social media. Like, I wasn't finding a space where actually people were being real and honest about the
Honest.
challenges.
Mhm.
And thankfully, there are so many more spaces that are doing that now, because it is a really difficult time. And actually,
It
when all
is.
you're seeing is baby's really important, and baby should be doing this, and baby should wear
Mhm.
that, and you're like, but how about me? Like, I'm still
Yeah.
here. Like, I'm right
Mhm.
here. I've not just disappeared. Like, I am still a
Yeah.
person, and what I need and what I want is still important.
It's
So,
like people come round, and it's like it's all about the baby, and then
yeah,
you're kind of just there in this like haze of,
mhm.
what the hell has just
Yes,
happened?
happened.
What the hell's happened to my body?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's just an insane time, isn't it? And it's I don't think you can be prepared for it until you're in it. And
No.
you know, it doesn't matter, you know, what people say to you, like, you need this and you need that. And, you know, I felt like I was prepared, and ultimately was not prepared.
Yeah.
Um, and so the business kind of came out of some conversations with some friends, and I was like, right, okay, they're just gonna see what happens. Let's just do this. And my daughter's dad at the time, he was working away a lot, and he'd gone off to work in the morning. I think he probably left at like 5:30, 6:00. And by the time he came home at like 7:30, I had an Instagram, a logo, designed a
Oh my
first
God.
product. I'd literally sat in bed all day. I think we probably had Gossip Girl on repeat. I think she actually might have slept. Gossip girl work wonders. And I was just so in the zone and so
Yeah.
focused, and it really ignited this kind of like, I've got something for me now, like this is
Yeah.
actually, this is what I need.
Hmm.
You know, and whilst all, you know, all of that was going on, and I was, you know, starting to, I guess, grow a business and grow a community of, you know, talking really honestly about motherhood and my experiences and inviting others to do the same, you know, behind those scenes I was still really struggling, um
Oh.
struggling to bond with her, and
Hmm.
kind of, but be, because all that was happening, it gave me more of a drive to focus on the business and what was happening there. And
Hmm.
when she turned about 5 months old, I was diagnosed with postnatal depression, and that
Hmm.
for me kind of brought, I guess, really shone a light on like where I was at and how I was feeling. And actually I didn't want to sit in that space anymore. You
Yeah.
know, I wanted better for me, but I also wanted better for her as well. You know, I
Hmm.
didn't want to be a mum who, you know, for her who, you know, felt sad or didn't want to leave the house, or, you know,
Yeah.
I was really not taking care of myself at all.
Hmm. Was it you that noticed, Emma? Because I had postnatal depression too with
Yeah.
both of mine. Because I think sometimes either you can notice in yourself
Mm-hmm.
or you don't actually know until somebody else tells you.
Mm.
What was your experience?
So my experience was, and it was something that I'd been really concerned about when I was pregnant. I was like
Okay.
getting, you know, being poorly, getting postnatal depression. It was something that I
Yeah.
was so aware of. Um, I had quite a few friends who worked in the birth and baby kind of industry. So one of
Okay.
them was a doula, but she also ran the local sling library. And then one of my other friends, she did baby massage and baby yoga and
Okay.
perinatal, and she, you know, she did lots of other bits and pieces as well. And I think because I was in this community and I built up relationships with people, like I was always kind of a bit wary of, if I don't go to something, someone's going to
Yeah.
pick up on something. So I would go to the things, but then as soon as I got home, it was like, I guess, that kind of like mask removed, like, you
Yeah.
know. And one of those friends I messaged, it got to a point where I just couldn't, I guess, keep that inside anymore. Like I couldn't
Yeah.
like suppress it.
Oh.
And I messaged her and was like, look, this is how I'm feeling. I think I'm right in saying that I probably need to get a doctor's appointment, but
Mhm.
what do you think? She's like, no, you do need to go and get a doctor's appointment.
Oh. How difficult was that to be honest with somebody?
Um, I think because of the friend who it was, I knew that
Yeah.
whatever she said was going to be non-judgmental. It was going to be supportive, and I already had the answers. I already knew that I was struggling.
Yeah.
And actually, when I went to the doctor, and he was like, "No, actually, I think," and I hadn't even gone for that. You know, I had the intention of going for that, but
Okay.
actually, and isn't it interesting what our body does to maybe make
Mhm.
us do other things?
Yeah.
Um, so at that time, I also had tonsillitis. So I'd gone
Okay.
because I could barely speak and, you know, was in so much pain. And he was like, so is there anything else? And I was like, yeah, actually there is. And that
Mhm.
felt like a massive weight lifted.
Yeah.
And I'd already met that doctor. And I think there's all those kind of different things that come into play, aren't there, when you're on that journey, when you are struggling, and the
Mhm.
people that you reach out to for support, or maybe the people you are less likely to reach out for support. Um, and I'd already had appointments with that doctor when Isabella was struggling feeding. He'd done like a peds referral
Okay.
and stuff. So I already knew who he was, and
Yeah.
he'd been really kind and really
Mhm.
supportive in those kind of conversations that we'd had previous.
Do you think if it had have been a different doctor, you would have mentioned that aside from your tonsillitis?
Probably not.
Okay.
And that's interesting, isn't it? In terms of
Mhm.
actually that, I guess, that trust of,
Yeah.
you've done something already that proves to me that you are going to take action, or
Mhm.
you, whatever, you know, whatever was going on. And I think because I'd got to a point in that part of my, I guess, journey, that actually I didn't want to be a mum anymore. Like that was
Yeah.
that, I just didn't want to do, I just didn't want to do it.
Mhm.
And I knew that something had to change. I think I was
Yeah.
kind of already in that space of actually that I don't want to be in this situation. Like this is no good
Mhm.
for anybody. Um, and so we had the doctor's appointment, and he was really supportive. And then I went down the kind of route of having counselling rather than medication. That was given as an option, but I'll try the counselling first, let's see how that goes. And that was a really good process for me, to kind of explore kind of what was happening. But at that time, I also, and it wasn't right at the point of the diagnosis, I think it was maybe a couple of months later, I made the decision to share the journey that I was on with that, because as much as it was coming from that really vulnerable place, I was actually like, I don't want to hide this. Like, this is very real. This is what's happening in my life. And this is also happening to lots of other mums as well. And, I can see very, very slowly that fog is starting to clear. But I think it's also really important that I talk about it, really quite, I guess, publicly. And I think that helps that. And obviously not everybody is able to do that. And if that's not right, don't feel that you have to, I was running this community and felt I had to be honest, because actually I needed to be honest for me. And that was what was important.
Almost like it was therapeutic for you and helping others at the same time.
But with that, always doing it in a way, like when I talk about it, I'm really, really careful that it's not triggering for other people, because, when we talk about those things, it can be, can't it, for, a lot of people. But having that awareness and also signposting to, these are the places you can go to for support, is absolutely key. Your GP, your health visitor, Pandas, the perinatal mental health partnership, they're all places that can offer really, really valuable support, as well as, friends and family as well. So I think that's it kind of comes hand in hand with that, isn't it? That actually there is that support out there.
And I think the main message is that you're not alone.
Absolutely. And it does get better and it does get easier. It's a journey, it's a process.
Definitely.
And even now, I know that I have to maintain my mental health. And that's going to be something that I'm probably always going to have to do. But again, as we said earlier, it comes back to that self-awareness of knowing what I need and, when and who to ask for support.
Do you think that's what pushed you into because you work in such a different way to just a traditional coach, do you think that's what pushed you into the all-round, like, holistic therapeutic way that you work, because you have that deep understanding of your own self? You wanted to be able to provide your clients with the same, really, for them.
I think that's I've never really looked at it from that way. But because I think, there's no one size fits all, is there? And we are all on a journey and all of our lives look really, really different. And actually, when we can be curious about things and when we can try things, and I use that when I talk about self-care, because actually, when I talk about that, so many people roll their eyes because, like, it's a spa day and it's getting my nails done, and actually I don't have time for that, and stop talking about it because I've heard it so many times. And all of that's true, we do hear it so much. And actually it shouldn't be used as a sticking plaster for all the other things that are happening that we are up against as parents, as business owners. Actually, it's a supportive factor and should be part of our healthcare, and actually can be really simple, can be really accessible, and really beneficial to us. And we only have so much time, and time is such a barrier to so many things, isn't it? Especially,
so frustrating sometimes.
Like, can I just have Bernard's watch and go back?
Oh my god, I love that program. The Queen's Nose.
All of those. They don't make kids programs like that anymore, do they?
No.
But I think, when we talk about self-care, it needs to come from this kind of experimental, like, let's just try and let's just see. And actually, if it doesn't work, okay, well, let's just try something else. And I haven't lost anything by doing that. Actually, what I've gained is that understanding that that doesn't work for me, or it doesn't work for me in that way, or that's just not right for me now. And I think as adults, we can be so, maybe conditioned is the right word, but we're so easy to, like, beat ourselves up if we make a mistake. We feel like we have to be right about everything. And what I mean by that is that actually, if we don't understand how to do something, or or we're not, we're not got that curiosity that maybe our children have. And
Yeah.
we can be quite easy to give up with things if they don't go to plan. And actually, it can be really useful in those times where we are finding things more challenging, that we speak to ourselves with that kindness and compassion that we would have if we were speaking to
100%.
a client, a child, a friend.
Mm-hmm.
If you said to a friend, I'm really struggling, I'm really tired, my kids won't sleep, my business, this is happening, and I just can't make it work, what would they say to you? Would they say, continue to do more? Come on, pick yourself up, keep going? No,
Come
they're
on,
going
you're
to say,
useless.
yeah, come on. That's not what they're going to say. They're going to say,
No.
how about you just take an afternoon where you just spend some time with your kids and you don't do any work? Like, it's going to wait. It's not
Yeah.
an urgent. And I think when we,
That's the third person thing that you were
yeah,
talking about, isn't it?
absolutely. Yeah. And that can be so useful, but we're so easy to get into that negative,
Yeah.
thought pattern, that internal monologue of, I'm rubbish because I haven't done on this, that, and the other. Actually, no. But that it takes practice, doesn't it? I think with a lot of
Yeah,
these
of course.
things, what we need to remember is it takes practice and it's learning, and we don't stop learning. Like, we never stop learning, whether it's about us, whether it's about our environment, whether it's things that we bring into our life, we do not stop learning.
Yeah,
And that actually gets to be really exciting and fun, and a space
definitely.
where there's so much, it can be so much excitement, there can be so many mistakes, we can problem solve in that space.
Mhm.
The same as when our children are learning to do things, we don't expect them to just
Exactly.
get a bike, do we, and to be able to ride it.
No,
How to
we
do
wouldn't
it.
berate them for
Yeah.
not being able to
No,
walk, would
no,
we?
we'd be like, come on, you can do it, keep going, keep trying. Okay, we'll stop for today, but we're going to try again tomorrow. Like, we wouldn't be like, okay, fine, you didn't do it first time, though, we'll just sell the bike, and that's not how it works.
You'll never be able to
Yeah,
ride
yeah,
it.
it's not. So, but yeah, I think you're right. I think because I'd, started to bring in those self-care practices, and it had been really important for me to start taking better care of myself during that period.
Yeah,
But then also because I was really inviting in those stories from others, their, kind of advice and guidance, but
yeah.
real, supportive advice and guidance, and that's
Mhm.
when, that idea for the magazine came, because, which we were
Mhm.
talking about when before we started to record, that,
Yeah.
the magazine, the Positive Wellbeing Zine for Mums, came from that space of it came from that space of, actually, let's bring all those things together, let's bring those stories, let's bring those
Yeah,
beautiful illustrations that mums who are, again, building a business while, also growing their family, let's
yeah,
bring poetry,
definitely.
let's bring that creative element, let's bring small businesses into it as well. And what I really wanted was to create a space for those things, but a beautiful space that actually,
Mhm.
wasn't something else that you would read on your phone, wasn't scrolling social media, was actually, two birds in one stone, really. You were taking that time for you for self-care, and also you
Exactly.
were, nourishing yourself through reading and engaging with people who completely got it. And
Yeah,
I was really, really careful within the magazine and when I was creating it, that actually there wasn't stuff about baby needs to sleep here, this is what needs to happen, this is what baby needs to wear.
mhm. Focusing on mum instead,
Absolutely.
and not just
Absolutely.
mum, you as an
Yes,
individual.
absolutely. And I'm really honoured that up to this point, been able to do 19 issues plus special editions. I guess that's 20
Amazing.
issues. We'll say
Yeah,
20 issues. And although it's not a printed publication anymore because COVID, print costs, everything kind of changed, I guess, within those few months, didn't it? Really, like,
yeah.
it was a crazy kind of time. That actually it now just exists as a digital
Oh, okay,
issue.
cool.
So they're all still available on the website from issue 1, right up to issue 19, and all the other bits and
Mhm.
pieces that have happened, as within the magazine. Um, then they're still
It feels
available.
like you need to do another one, just to round it off. I don't know if that's my brain or what.
Maybe that will happen in the future. But that's also, probably a really interesting point to talk about as well, in terms of actually now it's got the pause button pressed on it, and that's okay. I think that's another kind
Yes.
of thing, that actually often when we feel like we stop something, that we feel like we can't restart it. And for me, the magazine has been a beautiful way to bring everything together,
Yeah.
and a lot of other people's stories. And then, for me, it felt like my voice and kind of what I wanted to say wasn't really able to be shared because I was focusing so much. And not that there was absolutely anything wrong with that, but I was moving into this new space of really wanting to embrace the coaching and talk about that a lot more. And so the magazine, something had to, I guess, give within that space, so I could solely focus on that and raising my daughter and everything else that was happening in my personal life at the time too.
And that's a massive act of self-care on your part, Emma, isn't it? I think we so often feel like we have to just do everything, otherwise we're failing. Yeah.
But then what does that give us? Because I was talking about this with somebody else today, like, we find it really difficult to rest, don't we? Or to press pause on something. But then what's the knock-on effect of that? It's burnout and enforced rest that often comes at the most inconvenient time.
Yeah.
Maybe when we've got a big launch, or it's our kid's birthday, or in the run up to Christmas, or whatever it is, like it's always at the worst time.
Yeah.
And you're right, it's such a gift and act of self-care, isn't it, to actually be like, right, just for now, whether that's 6 months, a year, it's just got the pause button pressed on it. I'm not saying never again, because probably I will do another one at some point, but there's no pressure on me to do that right now. Actually, that can happen when it happens. And in the meantime, there are 19 non-dated issues that anyone can access, and all of that information is still relevant, regardless of what month it is or what year we're in. It is still relevant. But
what a gift, though, that also is that even if you decided never ever to do another edition, you have got that bank of all of that content, all of them amazing women's stories that you can look back on and be like, wow, this is a part of my journey I really enjoyed. And then look what happened next. It doesn't always have to be negative just because you don't, you might not end up doing another one. It's a huge part of your experiences. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. But that also takes that self-awareness, doesn't it, to actually be really like, I'm really proud of this, and I'm really proud of this achievement, and be a bit kind of like, actually, I did that. I put that out into the world, and that's hard too, isn't it, as an adult?
It's amazing.
So yeah, I guess that, the journey of the magazine, and then a year later I started the podcast. Again,
and what's that called, just so that everyone can find it?
It was called, very similar to the magazine, but it's now called the Self-Care and Motherhood Edit. And that has all the back episodes. I think there's 120 episodes on the podcast now. So that's 5 years worth of work with a 12-month, actually might have been 18-month pause in the middle. Again, because life happens, and actually, I wasn't in a space to even, I think it's really important when we are growing our business, when we're raising our family, to look at our energy levels, and actually, like, what do we want to pour that energy into? And the podcast was just not, the energy just wasn't there for it. It's like, again, I'm just going to press pause, like, it's still there, people are still listening. Actually, I just don't want to record right now. And I came back, I think it was last year, I think just after Christmas, I want to say, but that could be wrong, and did a whole load of solo episodes. And actually, I'd not really recorded any solo episodes. And then the end of this season that's just finished, season 4, 3, maybe 4, I think it's 4 guest episodes, so back recording with other people, which just felt amazing. And actually, I think within all that space, so much flexibility, isn't there, when we run our own business, to just do what works for us.
Exactly. And not feel that pressure. The thing that I try and tell people about their businesses is you have to be getting the joy out of it. You know, it's not always about how much money you make, or it's about what makes you happy. Don't ever take on too much. Don't just say yes to every opportunity because you're scared of not going for it. You know, think about, is this actually going to benefit me? Is this going to bring me joy? You know, is this going to make me unhappy? I think is a big question that we need to ask.
Absolutely. And if I do that, what can I not do because of that? Or what can I do
Exactly.
because of that? You know, they're all really useful questions, aren't they, to ask? And not every opportunity is going to be the right opportunity or is going to give you what you hoped it would. Sometimes actually it's just about going and seeing what happens, isn't it? And I'm going to do that because actually it sounds exciting, or I'm not really sure,
And
but I'm
because
just
I
going to do it.
can.
Yeah, because I can give it a go.
Mhm.
And actually sometimes things just don't work in that way. But I think it's about, you know, as you said, you know, it working in a way that works for you. You know, there've been so many podcasts actually recently and Facebook and Instagram lives where my 6-year-old has been sat on the floor holding my hand while I've been doing them. And
Yeah.
like you try and schedule them, don't you? You know,
Mhm.
and that's, you know, half term. So I've been off work, she's off as well. And actually she's really good because she knows that she knows now what happens. Like, this is what mummy's doing. I'm not to
Oh,
talk. Like,
yeah.
and she'll just, I'll see her come in and she'll just come across and I'm just like put my hand out, she'll just sit down. And but that that works, you know, it works for the two of
Yeah.
us
Mhm.
because, you know, that's me building that business around us as
Mhm.
a family, as a unit, and, you know, working in a way that works for us. You know, I used to work
Yeah.
all of the time. Like, I'd come home from my teaching job and work on my business. And
Gosh,
now, and that's just burnout. You know, I was
it's
hitting
not
burnout.
sustainable, is it?
Absolutely not sustainable. And it's not sustainable family wise.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable relationship wise. And also, it's not sustainable energy or even financial
Mhm.
wise because
Yeah.
just working and pouring everything that you've got into everything. And,
Yeah.
you know, what's the thing
None
that,
into us.
yeah, absolutely. And that's, you know, I'm so passionate about self care. And that's why I talk about it so much because if we're not also pouring into us,
Mhm.
nothing else is going to work. And especially not for a long period of time, you know, we are going to hit that
Exactly.
burnout, you know, we are going to be exhausted and depleted. And then our business isn't going to get the best of us. Our family,
Mhm.
our relationships, our kids are not going to get the best of us. And it's that ripple effect is, you know, is really, really interesting. And if we,
Definitely.
you know, our clients are going to pick up on that, how we show
Mhm.
up on social media, you know, and that, you know, I think it's really interesting when we look at it from our kids. I was having a conversation with my daughter the other week and we were talking about, I'm really fortunate that I can go to the gym and I've
Yeah.
been weightlifting and that's something I never thought I could do, but I've
Amazing.
been really like embracing again that curiosity of, well, let's just go and see. I bet I can lift like a really small amount, but let's
Mhm.
just see. And now I've hit some really big PBs and I'm like, you
Oh my
know, that's
gosh.
amazing. And I love
Yeah.
it. And I never thought I would, like, really did not think that was for me. And we were talking about me going and I will go when I don't have her. So when
Okay.
she's with her dad. And obviously I'm really fortunate that I have that time that I can go
Yeah.
and do that, or we'll make it work in another way if there's no, you know, time for me to go when I don't have her. And we
Yeah.
were talking about it, like, so what does mummy do for self-care? And she listed off all these things. One of them was writing in my book,
Oh,
which she means journaling, so which
yeah.
that's what she understands. And she's like, mummy goes to the gym. And we were talking about, you know, me being a good mummy. And I was like, so is mummy a better mummy if mummy goes to the gym? And she was like, yes. And how
Oh,
she said it was so like
oh,
so strong because it was like she knows the impact. If I've been to the gym, how much better I can show up for her. You know, I'm not impatient and potentially a little bit shouty sometimes when they are
yeah.
kind of, you know, getting at each other or whatever. Actually, I am able to show up much calmer, much more grounded because I have taken that time to pour into myself, you know, whether it's a
Mhm.
gym or whether it's something else, because that isn't accessible for everybody.
Yeah.
But it's really, I think, important that even if we are struggling to find that time, whether we have children or not, you know, actually we're looking at the ripple effect that adding to us,
Definitely.
you know, allowing our energy levels to be topped up really makes to absolutely everything that we do.
Mhm. It's very difficult though, Emma, isn't it? Because we feel, because we are kind of the nucleus of a lot of things around us. So whether that be, you know, if we've got caring responsibilities, if we're parents or our work, it can feel a lot of pressure to be like, okay, can I take that time away? Because I am needed in all of these different situations. But it's about kind of overriding that, isn't it? And be like, okay, well, if I don't, then I cannot continue to be the nucleus in the life that I have at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with that, you know, yeah, I've spoken about going to the gym, and that takes me out of that family situation, and I go out of the house to do that. But there's so many
Okay.
things that we can do where we are still in that space. And it doesn't have to be that we're going out or that we're spending money. It can be that actually we are all sat together as a family, and maybe you've got your
Yeah.
headphones in and you're listening to a podcast while the kids play, or you take 5 minutes just to journal. Maybe the kids are coloring, maybe they're outside playing, maybe they're, you know, whatever. Maybe
Mhm.
they're at an activity after school and you've got 5 minutes, 10 minutes just to sit and take
Yeah.
some deep breaths, or to, you know, listen to an audiobook. It doesn't need to be a space where actually we are taking ourselves out of those situations.
Mhm.
And it can be something that we do with others as well. You know, a
Yeah.
really good example is, you know, making a family playlist of all your favorite music, and,
Oh.
you know, putting that on. And maybe you have that on in the morning when you're doing the chores or when you're getting ready to go to school. The
Mhm.
energy level that we can get from actually adding that music in, adding a podcast in, adding, you know, an audiobook in,
Yeah.
getting outside for 5 minutes, that can absolutely change up almost instantly where we're at and how we're showing
The
up.
whole day.
Absolutely. And I think also with that, you know, we can reset that intention and focus at varying points throughout our day.
Yes.
So I
Mhm.
know that my morning, getting out on the school run, I've got a long drive in the morning to get my daughter to school and then for me to get back to work, that
Mhm.
actually that is rushed, and it's probably always going to be rushed no
Yeah.
matter how prepared I am. I have a 6-year-old, you know, that comes with all the, you know, chaos
Yeah,
and,
of
you know,
course.
all of that. But I also need to get to work on time, and sometimes I
Mhm.
have to be at work earlier or I have to stay later. And so what
Okay.
I find really useful is bringing in kind of that resetting of my intention, restarting of my day when I get to work. That
Mhm.
can also be really useful for, you know, people who maybe drop their kids off at work and come home to their home office to work, because
Yeah.
actually what we're doing in that space is really bringing ourselves into that new environment. And environment is absolutely key. You know, that is absolutely a pillar to our self-care
Yeah.
practices, is our environment. And so what I will do now when I get to work, you know, I absolutely love journaling, as I said before, but I find it really difficult. I'm not going to be able to journal in the morning on before I get out for the school run. That's
No.
not going to happen. And it's not going
It's
to be
about
a
setting those realistic expectations though,
absolutely,
isn't it, too?
absolutely. So what I will do now is I'll drop my daughter at school. We'll listen to a playlist in the car and we'll both sing, although mostly it's just me singing and her sitting there looking really embarrassed that her mum's like doing this in the car, um, telling me to not sing. But I will then get to work and I'll make my cup of tea and I'll switch my computer on. And as all that's starting up and it's logging in, I will then take 2 minutes to do my journaling practice then.
Okay.
And
So then
that,
that's you.
that's me.
Okay, this is what I want
Yeah,
to do.
absolutely. So I've had all that rushness, chaos, whatever's happened. And actually, it doesn't
Mhm.
even matter if it's not rushed, because I've removed that expectation of me needing to journal before I've left the
Yeah.
house. I can do it actually when I've got the 2 minute space to just be
Mhm.
calm. I'm in work now. This is a space that I'm in. I can reset my intentions for the day. This is the next chapter.
Yeah.
Again, the same process can be really useful in an evening. You know, if we're doing the school pickup, again, can be quite rushed. You know, maybe we're coming straight from
Mhm.
work or this or that, the other. You know, if we can get 2 minutes in the car just to take some deep breaths, or even just to walk around the block before we walk down to the playground, all of those
Yes.
things have a massive impact on how we show up for that next part of our day. Because
Mhm.
otherwise, we just sit in that heightened emotional state. You know, we might feel
Yeah.
quite frazzled, we might be a bit snappy. However, we're showing up actually probably is not the best version of ourselves. And whether we have
Yeah.
children or other caring responsibilities, or actually even just getting ourselves up in the morning, can become
Mhm.
a bit of a rush, you know, making sure we're online for clients or we've got a meeting or whatever. Actually, it can be really useful just to take that time and
It's almost
bring
like regrounding yourself in a way,
absolutely,
isn't it?
Absolutely. And that doesn't cost anything. And breathing is a really beautiful and easy and accessible way to do that, because if we can
Okay.
just take a couple of calming deep breaths, whether it's obviously always in through our nose and either out through our nose or our mouth, whichever feels most comfortable. Again, you might breathe out through your nose, today, breathe out through your mouth tomorrow, because actually that feels more comfortable today. It really doesn't matter. It's about inviting that practice in. The more we do it, the easier it becomes. The more we
Yeah.
notice the impact of doing those things. And just, 5 deep breaths in and out, that's absolutely going to calm our nervous system. And if we do that multiple times during our day, like, that is such a gift that we can give to ourselves. But also,
Definitely.
we can give to those around us as well, because if we are showing up calm, that is, is contagious. How we show up ultimately impacts how other people show up and how they respond to us
Definitely.
and how we respond to them. So if we're able to come at it from a calm and much more grounded, present space, that is such a gift.
Absolutely. Emma, I could literally talk to you all day. So can you let me know, like, how people can work with you? So in what different capacities? Because I did notice that I feel like, again, you what's the word? You stick out from other people
Mm-hmm.
in the coaching industry for me, because it's almost like you have tailored each way to work with you
Mm-hmm.
specifically because you so understand your clients, and that's so clear from the different ways in which that they can work with you, because you just get it. Does
Mm.
that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. And because, as a busy mum myself, I know that, rocking up to coaching calls on Zoom or video, however they happen, it can be really difficult, can't it? There's loads
Yeah.
of distractions. You might not get 60 minutes or 90 minutes, depending on how long the sessions are, to actually just have that in an, uninterrupted time. And then you dig into stuff and you might set some actions that you need to do, and then you need the time to go and do those actions too. So where are we going to
Yeah,
find that time?
definitely.
And coaching in that space is absolutely beautiful, don't get me wrong, and I do offer it for my clients.
Yeah.
However, there's also another way which I feel is just so much more accessible for busy mums, people who are on the go, that have 5-10 minutes here but maybe don't have that full 60-90 minutes plus that other
Yeah,
time.
chunk of time.
Yeah. And actually, when they have that time, it's not necessarily in a time when they would be able to jump on a call with somebody. It might be when they arrive at the school run, it might be in an evening when the kids have gone to bed. So
Exactly.
I launched my Nurture Mum package, which is essentially one-to-one pocket coaching. So you can
I
access.
even love that pocket coaching. It's like I've got a little mate in my
Yeah,
pocket.
you just got me in your pocket all the time. Um, so we do it via voice notes and messages, obviously
Okay.
sending, visuals as well. Um, and with that package, what I absolutely love is that it means that you have access to me, throughout the day, and I will
Yeah.
respond generally within 72 hours. That's kind of the structure, the boundary that's in place for that. Generally, it's a lot faster than that. And then I also have an hour aside a week where I'm available for that full hour, so you can get kind of much more, faster responses during that
Yeah.
time. I find that such a beautiful way to coach, because it just allows it to be so much more accessible and simple. And for
Definitely.
me, that's what all of this is about. When we're already got so many things going on, we're spinning so many plates, but we know we need that help, that support, someone to hold our hand as we get more clarity, whatever it might look like. Actually, it needs to be simple, it needs to be accessible.
And
And
it needs to
so,
be unrestricted, doesn't it? Because we're
absolutely,
so restricted as mums anyway in
yes,
different situations, especially with like new babies or new
yeah,
children, whatever it is,
yeah,
to offer
absolutely.
a mum flexibility is
Hmm.
something really special.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with that in mind, I've also recorded, and it's something that I'm hoping to grow and develop, some on-demand courses. So some of those
Okay.
signature, programs that I've been running and workshops that actually, we've all done it. We've signed up for something, haven't we? We've paid however much for it, and then something happens and we don't get to the live call. And then we're like, I need to catch up
so
on
many
this.
times.
Yeah, I need to catch up on this. I feel really guilty that I've not attended and I've spent all this money and etc. 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 Or we're watching the live call and we managed to make it, and then our kid starts crying and we have to go and deal with that. And so we've missed half of it. And then, So I have produced a series of on-demand courses. So they are self-paced. You can download them. You can pause them as many times as you need. Watch them as many times as you need. Just so, again, like, it's that simple accessibility, the flexibility of being able to access really useful things that are actually going to really support you as a mom, but in a way that makes it more accessible and easy, So those are a couple
and
of
on
things.
your own terms.
Absolutely, because that is so important, isn't it? And then we can watch
sometimes
it.
structure goes out the window, doesn't it? And you don't actually have a plan.
Absolutely. And it has to work with where our lives are at now, and it might be that, a coach or someone's running a workshop, at 7 till 8 p.m. and actually you can't attend because that's bedtime, or that's this, whatever it is. And so, I think, again, that's a really another beautiful way for mums to engage with those practices. And I'm really excited about developing them even further as well, and offering more things kind of in that space.
Okay.
The other thing, obviously, is a self-care and motherhood edit podcast where you can listen to me talk about.
I'll put the links in the show notes.
So on that podcast, we talk about kind of a lot of the things that we've discussed here, or or helpful practical tools and techniques that we can use as busy mums, and also some guests as well that have come to join me, which is fantastic. And there is new, which I know we talked about before, and you asked me what was exciting and what was happening. There's going to be something new launching for summer and supporting mums and people who are caring for others to really care for themselves over summer as well. So that's coming very, very soon.
Exciting. So if people want to know more or maybe sign up, then are they to just sign up to your mailing list? And then they'll be first to find out?
So you can sign up to my mailing list via the website or via my social media. And you will, with that, when you sign up, you'll also get a self-care hacks for busy mums guide as well. So that will help you start to implement some really simple and easy self-care practices. You can also find me over on emmabenyoncoaching.co.uk, and I'm also over on Facebook and Instagram at emmabenyon.coach.
Brilliant. Emma, it's been an absolute pleasure. I actually wish we had another hour.
I know, me too.
It's gone really fast, hasn't it? It's been lovely, but I'll put all of your links and everything in the show notes. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. And I encourage everybody to go and check you out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.